dan barokah dari Allah Subhanahu wa taala memberikan kemudahan dan kelancaran kita dalam membangun ibu kota Nusantara ini.
It's President Joko Widodo's most ambitious project, moving Indonesia's capital to a remote location 1,200 kilometers from Jakarta.
The idea of starting a city from scratch is always very interesting for many planners. It's like a utopia.
The eye of the global audience will be on us.
But with environmental and social concerns plaguing construction.
Tidak pernah ada solusi mengenai hal ini. Tiba-tiba dipasang aja, kita sendiri yang mempunyai tempat di sini kaget aja. Ada patok-patok seperti itu.
And just 1 year to Nusantara's inauguration, will Indonesia's new capital be ready? In Penajam Pasir Utara Regency, East Kalimantan Province, a project worth more than $30 billion is underway. Here is where Indonesia's new capital will be located, a city more than 3 times the size of Singapore. Indonesians call it Ibu Kota Negara, or IKN, meaning capital city. Its name is Nusantara. Target of completion for Nusantara, 2045, when Indonesia celebrates its centenary as an independent nation. But the first phase of the project is expected to be finished next year. And Bambang Susantono is the man in charge of making it happen.
As you can see here, on the far right there where you can see the crane, that is the presidential palace. And this one, the one that you can see like a strip here, if you imagine like the Washington Mall, right? So it's going to be a mall right here where we have several iconic sort of like places, like what we call the Bukit Bandara, and then there is some area of the Titik Nol and others, and it's a strip like that, and basically it's a green strip, and it will be sort of like the main sort of like axis of this Nusantara capital, where many of the strategic buildings will be located.
In March 2022, President Jokowi broke ground at Nusantara. And exactly 1 year from today, on August 17, 2024, President Joko Widodo will preside over the 79th anniversary of Indonesia's proclamation of independence from the Netherlands. And he wants to do it here, in Nusantara. By then, the presidential palace and several government ministries are expected to be completed.
And this is part of that. For example, here is the Istana, the palace, and then there's a couple of government building here, right? There are also some demand to, for example, to develop some education town, to develop some research center, or perhaps a renewable area, the solar farm, for example.
The new capital is located in East Kalimantan, one of the 5 provinces which make up Kalimantan on the Indonesian side of Borneo Island. Kalimantan is home to 16 million people and 37 million hectares of tropical forest. At the moment, getting to Nusantara is not that straightforward. From Jakarta, it's a 2-hour flight to Balikpapan, East Kalimantan's oil and commercial center. Then, another 2-hour drive past villages, forests, and palm oil plantations. But there is a reason this location is chosen.
This is in the middle of, if you open the map of the Indonesia, right? So that's why this site is chosen, right? And because of that, I think that this is ideal places also to showcase that we can really build something that in harmony again between the people, nature and culture, and also be part of the global campaign. Yeah?
With the clock ticking, the pressure is on Bambang and his team to have Nusantara ready for its inauguration in exactly 1 year's time. The question on people's minds, will Nusantara be ready?
We do hope that by 17th of August 2024, we're going to have some sort of like an ecosystem that consisting of the palace, you can see the palace right there, and then a couple of ministerial offices. Not only that one, not only offices for the government, but also what we call the amenities or the facilities for those who would like to move here as the pioneer. So that consisting of, for example, education facilities, hospital, even mall, for example. And it's not big, but it's enough for ecosystem to show that yes, this is the first step of the next step that we are going to undertake.
Currently, 36 houses for government ministers are beginning to take shape. Civil servants are expected to be the first of Nusantara's residents.
We are on the track in terms of development progress. As you can see, each of the physical constructions has their own progress. For example, on the dam, it has been above 90%. So on in all, we are still on the track to achieve the first target on 2024, especially on the 17th of August.
But why does Indonesia need a brand new capital? The prospective city is meant to alleviate the pressures on the current capital, Jakarta.
Faktanya bahwa hari ini itu penduduk Jakarta ada sekitar 10 juta. Kemudian itu adalah sekitar 3,9% ya dari populasi seluruh penduduk Indonesia. Kemudian pendapatan domestik regional brutonya itu adalah sekitar 3.200 triliun atau sekitar 16,6% dari PDB di Indonesia. Tapi secara umum kita bisa lihat bahwa problematik yang kasat mata kita lihat itu adalah masalah kemacetan, kemudian masalah banjir dan masalah tata ruang yang tidak dikelola dengan baik.
But the construction of Nusantara is not without controversy. But the site is not a bare piece of land. There are villages scattered in the area. Pandi, his wife and 4 children live in the Sipaku village, named after a nearby river. They were alarmed when boundary markers appeared one day.
Nah ini kita sendiri belum tahu, cuman ini tiba-tiba terpasang begitu saja di samping rumahnya orang. Nah ini tidak pernah ada solusi mengenai hal ini. Tiba-tiba dipasang aja, kita sendiri yang mempunyai tempat di sini kaget aja ada patok-patok seperti ini.
The small yellow piece of cloth attached to the markers have development boundary written on them. 800 meters away, the Sipaku Dam is being built. The resulting reservoir will provide water to Nusantara. But Pandi thinks the 200 villages here will be displaced by the dam.
Ya reaksi kita cuman jadi tanda tanya aja, untuk apa ini? Jadi kemungkinan ya kita berpikir wah ini bakal menggusur pemukiman yang ada. Jadi ya sempat melakukan perlawanan, membuat spanduk.
Building a city from scratch will be an expensive endeavor, over $30 billion, though this could be a fraction of the final price tag.
The initial figures that we got from the National Development Planning Agency is about $33 billion. But to be honest with you, I feel that this is still very small. And we are going to go beyond that one, of course. And we are going to use more on the cooperation or public-private partnership or private finance initiative. Because we want also the private sector be part of this development process.
Part of this budget is meant for land acquisition. But Pandi, who owns a hectare of farmland, says there have been no discussions about compensation so far.
Ya kalau untuk pembangunan IKN ya silakan tetap berjalan. Cuman kami tolonglah diperhatikan juga dari pihak pemerintah, beri kami legalitas yang jelas agar untuk keberlanjutan anak cucu kami ke depan.
Bambang says the authorities are aware of the issues raised by the villagers, from compensation to lack of information. He has promised to address them.
for those who are affected, we also would like them to be part of, for example, a good relocations. Yeah? Meaning that if we relocate them, we want them to be better off rather than worse off, right? So again, I treat them as my brother and sister. This is my citizens, and we would like them to be really part of the development process of this Nusantara.
And there are other pressing issues that the government will have to address before Nusantara's unveiling in a year. As the skeleton of the new presidential palace in Nusantara takes shape, 20 kilometers away lies Sepaku village in Penajam, Pasir Utara Regency.
Tanah leluhur di sini sejak zaman dulu kala, sebelum NKRI juga suku Balik sudah mendiami di sini. Ya. Jadi kami secara turun-menurun sudah tinggal di sini.
60-year-old Sibukdin is the tribal elder in this village, home to around 100 families. He's also the spiritual leader. For decades, they've had to compete with migrants who come to Kalimantan to seek new opportunities.
Wilayah ini kan sebenarnya sekitar tahun 72 ya Bang ya, ini khususnya yang di sekitar Sepaku, di Kabupaten Penajam Pasir Utara, itu kawasan ini sekitar tahun 70-an awal sudah menjadi wilayah transmigrasi. Nah, jadi kalau kita mau bilang berapa suku yang akan ikut merasakan daya rusak dari ibu kota negara ini, mungkin yang pertama pasti yang asli dari sini ya gitu ya.
As the foundations of Nusantara are laid in their backyards, some indigenous populations wonder if they will have a home here.
Ini katanya Bapak siap-siap untuk kedatangan teman-teman kita dari Pulau Jawa, Sulawesi, Sumatera dan sebagainya, bahkan mancanegara ya. Itu kita siap-siap. Kenapa harus siap-siap itu? Pemerintah siap-siap untuk memperhatikan hidup kami ini dulu. Itu yang kami setuju. Bagaimana kehidupan kami supaya kami tidak tersingkir dari tengah-tengah ibu kota ini. Kami juga ingin ramai.
Tetapi selain hal itu semua juga ada masalah sosial yang ada. Karena proyek ini tiba-tiba tanpa menanyakan kepada orang yang punya tanah atau orang yang punya rumah, akhirnya masyarakat juga bingung tuh, ini proyek apa ya gitu, atau IKN ini untuk apa ya?
Around 178,000 people call Penajam Pasir Utara home. But the population will explode from 2024 when 200,000 people are expected to live in Nusantara. Bambang Susantono believes the newcomers can coexist with the locals.
Many of them are the transmigration people, as already the third generation of them, but they live in harmony with those who are local, quote unquote, that came here before them. Right? And I think there is very, very, very minimal conflict that now happening here, and they are live in harmony. And we would like to maintain that one.
But the locals will have to be convinced.
Apa kami tukang jadi obat nyamuk, tukang sapu, tukang cuci piring itu. Itu ya, kalau kami bilang suku kami jauhkan bala, kalau kami ditaruh seperti itu, kami jadikan budak itu. Kami tidak berharap seperti itu. Kami mau pembinaan khusus dari pemerintah itu. Terus terang saja, masalah pendidikan, SDM sangat terbatas. Gak mungkin jadi pegawai. Yang dibutuhkan pemerintah S1, S2. Nah sendiri SD saja jarang-jarang lulus.
So there's always this feeling of inequality, injustice by the indigenous or the local community when it comes to the development. And this feeling of injustice later kind of reflected in the hate towards the migrants.
But my worry is really on the kinds of actions that might be taken to prepare for those potential conflicts. There has been cases of repressive actions towards conflicts or potential conflicts that actually leads to even more disparity even more disempowerment of indigenous communities. Of course, we are being too speculative here because there's nothing being done yet. But this is my worry, actually.
Ethnic tension flares up occasionally in Indonesia, a country of more than 17,000 islands and 500 ethnic groups. Kalimantan itself made headlines over 2 decades ago. Conflict erupted between indigenous groups and migrants from Madura Island off Java. At least 500 people were killed, mostly the Maduris. Many were decapitated as indigenous groups revived headhunting. Thousands fled and never returned. Like many other people in Kalimantan, Juban remembers the tragedy. He is also a Balik community leader.
Kami sudah berbuat baik dengan mereka, misalnya orang-orang pendatang itu, mereka yang ya tidak menghormati kami, itu yang kami tidak mau. Otomatis siapapun dia, siapapun orangnya, kalau itu tidak cocok dengan kami, supaya tidak itu untuk masalah jadi besar, otomatis bila perlu kamu jangan tinggal di sini, kamu keluar aja dari sana daripada kamu bikin penyakit untuk orang banyak, ya kan?
So, the question of whether Nusantara will be ready must consider the social dimension. But the speed that the Nusantara project was approved has raised questions if the people are sufficiently prepared. The plan was deliberated at Parliament in December 2021 and passed into law a month later.
Pertama pasti udah terburu-buru ya, jadi kita melihat ya, angka waktu juga penting kan, 42 hari atau hampir 2 bulan dikerjakan itu nggak make sense banget gitu. Dan nggak ada proses yang layaknya dalam sebuah pemindahan ibu kota. Nah, biasanya kalau negara-negara pindah ibu kota itu ada 2 model referendum. Jadi ada referendum negaranya, seluruh penduduknya, ada referendum yang ketimpaan atau ketempatan jadi ibu kota.
Penentuan perpindahan ini tidak serta-merta mendengarkan apa yang diinginkan oleh masyarakat, ya. Sangat tidak partisipatif. Penentuannya dari atas ke bawah. Kemudian yang kedua adalah kita bertanya dananya dari mana. Tepatnya di Maret 2020 pandemi datang dan kita masih pada masa pemulihan kok, sehingga kita meyakini bahwa ngapain uangnya dibuang-buang ya, uang kita gitu ya, uang masyarakat, uang publik digunakan untuk membangun sesuatu yang tidak pernah ditanyakan urgensinya untuk masyarakat apa.
I can understand the constraint of the government. The time is limited for the current administration to pass the law, right? To make sure that the project is going, they need to pass the legal basis for this project as soon as possible. And if we talk about wider public consultation and also more open and transparent discussion on the legislative or regulation, it will take a long time.
The name Nusantara is also controversial. It has roots in the 14th century Majapahit kingdom to describe the islands outside Java, where it was based. Nusantara is seen as Java-centric.
Even the name is given from Jakarta. So where are the voices of the communities who are actually living there? Those are the people, I think, who are most important to be heard and to be taken into account, because it's their land. How would the new capital represent the local communities? The idea of representation here, whose ideas, whose cultures?
The government needs to make sure that the local community, indigenous groups are the main actor in the development. So making sure that their livelihood is protected, their revenue, their asset or their rights are protected is important.
To make sure the locals are not kept out of available opportunities, the government has made building schools a priority in Nusantara, complemented with ongoing educational support.
We are doing a lot of, for example, training, upskilling and reskilling. I don't want them to be the watcher, just watching what is happening here with all the transformation to be a smart and digital society. No, I want them to be part of them. And that's why this afternoon, for example, I opened a training on the coding mom, solar mama, and also coding for this disabled. This is, just an example on how we prepare them, the local community, to be part of the transformation for the digital society in the future.
And yet for others, Nusantara represents opportunity. Toirudin is Marjorie's and lives in Balikpapan, 100 kilometers away. His car rental business has boomed since construction began.
Kalau perusahaan ini kayaknya kayak POPR, otorita, kayak Kemenlu, kayak Pas Pampres. Kita kan ikut pelayanan juga Pak. Karena kan kalau Pas Pampres kan pasti kekurangan driver lah Pak ya. Saya turun Pak, ke lapangan itu Pak. Kayaknya semenjak ada IKN ini Pak, semuanya teman-teman di rental ini Pak kayak menguntungkan Pak. Mudah-mudahan tidak ada yang kayak macam-macam begitu lagi Pak ya. Namanya orang kan suku ini kan sama aja semuanya Pak ya. Kayaknya sama lah kita. Kayaknya saya lihat itu kayaknya santai-santai semuanya Pak.
Avoiding social conflicts could be a challenge for the government in the new capital. And then there is the environmental cost of building a new city from scratch. Another busy morning for Juban, tending to his rubber trees, observing the tapping process before the sun gets too hot. The 58-year-old father of 3 owns around 6 hectares of rubber plantations that he inherited from his parents in Pamaluan village. Juban says his farm will be affected by the construction of a 47-kilometer toll road linking Balikpapan with Nusantara. Just like in other areas in Penajam Pasir Utara Regency, the presence of boundary markers puzzle the locals.
Sudah ada pihak dari otorita itu masuk di dalam kawasan kebun kita kan. Mereka mengukur lahan kita, membuat patok tanpa sepengetahuan kita juga sih. Kok tiba-tiba ada patok, jadi warga-warga kita yang punya kebun itu bertanya-tanya ini patok apa kan. Belum ada pembicaraan kalau nanti ganti ruginya sekian kita belum tahu itu. Baru kita tahu ini untuk proyek jalan tol. Itu yang tahunya warga kita lah.
Juban says the villagers have not been officially informed by the authorities how the toll road construction will affect their livelihood. But based on his own calculations, the project will affect most of his plantations, leaving him with only 1 hectare.
Itu yang jadi problema kami di sini Pak. Di samping itu, kedepannya otomatis kalau IKN ini sudah berkembang, kemudian lahan-lahan kami masuk dalam kawasan IKN, kemudian itu diambil. Jadi orang-orang kami yang biasa bekerja di kebun itu kan